I'm Ashton Addison from the Crypto Coin Show, and today on Blockchain Interviews, we have back with us Bob Reid, CEO of Everest. Bob, it is a pleasure to see you again, and I'm always excited to learn about how Everest is bringing in, merging banking, traditional finance with crypto Web3. There's a lot going on right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Great to be back with you. Glad we're in the same part of the world too. Makes time zones work out wonderfully.
Definitely. I saw some recent updates of what Everest is working on, something really exciting over Twitter, and I feel like now's a great time for expansion into something like this. We can dive into it, but I feel like with the Ethereum ETF around the corner, more institutions, more traditional companies are getting excited about integrating blockchain and just seeing the benefits of like, hey, T0, more liquidity, things like that. So I would love to sort of high level into Everest you guys do a lot, but what it pertains to this new update that your team has just announced. Maybe you can sort of give a high level and dive in a little bit into that.
Sure. So, look, Everest, we've been around since 2018, headquartered in Malta. So as I like to put it, those 500 companies that showed up for Blockchain Island 6 years ago, we were one of the 10 that got the custodial license. And we got lucky in that the VFA regulations out of Malta became basically 98% adopted for the MiCA custodial for Pan-Europe. We're unique in that not only are we custodian, we actually have our own EVM chain, which functions either as an L1 to tokenize things, permissioned, or an L2 to, for example, Ethereum mainnet in some cases. So because of those capabilities, we've been tokenizing fiat, so I think stable coins, but we also tokenized crypto, not only our own, but also info tokens, like here's zero knowledge proofs of identity, again, on our chain and other chains, bridges out to Polygon and such. And even tokenizing on Ethereum mainnet. And so what that leads to is you can really kind of come in and out of fiat, crypto, and anything tokenized, all in the same platform. And to sort of put a bow around that, for tokenization, what that means is we're one of the few in the world that can actually, if you think about the big things in activities for tokenization, you have to take custody to something, right? Money, debt, assets, something. Then have to tokenize it on mainnet, or if it's a financial instrument and it's right, you kind of do it on a permission chain. And then the last piece is you actually have to do some sort of exchange capability. People can buy, sell, trade, whatever you took into custody and coast. And so Everest does all three of those. So we're kind of what I would call like a turnkey super shop for tokenization.
Wow, that's amazing. I feel like there's still 95+% of people that need to have better on and off ramps for fiat into stable coins, and having all the licenses to sort of move money around or transfer across borders. But the tokenization part, as it pertains to real world assets in the RWA space, I feel like is the market cap is like in the quadrillions when you can tokenize almost everything in the world. And there's a lot of things that have very low liquidity, or something that's worth $100 million, a building, any asset that's just a block, and you need one person to have $100 million who's specifically interested in that. And the barriers to entry are so high that tokenizing on the real world asset side is going to change the game.
I agree. We've seen a lot of it. So you can imagine, like, we've been tokenizing things for 4 years now, right? And to your point, like, well, let's go back one step. Like, when people tokenize, and there's a lot of tokenization going on right now, typically you don't get all three of those elements in the same company or infrastructure, right? Somebody does the custodial, somebody else does tokenization, somebody else does the liquidities. Like, HSBC does the custody, some blockchain company only will do the tokenization, and there's some third-party exchange kind of thing happening. So like, bring it all in, And now as you get into what's valuable to tokenize, right? Like there's a whole bunch of people I call masquerading around saying we're tokenizing treasuries. It's like, big deal. Like, let me just cut to the chase on that one. Like, it's regulated like money. It's more or less a mutual fund. Stop using a buzzword to promote yourself. Like, stop. Done. Um, one of the so I think we've mentioned like we're actually approved to swap tokens to financial instruments like stocks, commodities, etc. The first one we're launching with, though, that we've announced publicly is a mining company. And I don't mean a Bitcoin mining company. I mean a traditional, like multi-billion dollar in assets, like dig stuff out of the ground mining company. And it turns out like in terms of, when the VCs always talk about product market fit, we found something really unique here because it is one of the largest asset classes in the world. Like, let's dig iron, copper, gold, etc. out of the ground, right? And it turns out these are all very illiquid assets right now. Gold ETFs can be traded, but and so can precious metals. But here's lithium in the ground. Here's emeralds in the ground. There's tens of billions, actually, guys we're talking to have tens of billions, like the market cap is in the hundreds of billions or higher. But they're, in some cases, cash flow poor, but just massive, pieces of assets that, with tokenization can get liquid finally.
No, that's a great point. I think when when I'm in Canada and I see traditional investors, older investors, they love mining. And I look at it, from the lens of somebody who's in blockchain and sees the liquidity and, being able to move between assets day by day. And it's crazy to see how illiquid and like the investment horizons that they have. It's like, you're looking 5, 10 plus years down the road. And I couldn't imagine actually owning the mine in what the amount of assets they have to have that they can't sell efficiently. It's got to be, I feel like that industry is very ripe for disruption as long as the people in it are on board and understand, hey, this is going to help the businesses and the investors to make everything just faster and more liquid.
You're nailing it. And by the way, the Canadian experience is actually really, it's prescient and worth discussing in this. So you can imagine like our partner, Limitless, is what they're called. They've got over $10 billion in assets. And typically when you go like, here's emerald, alexandrite, or copper or gold, and they go to sell it, there's, a wholesaler, a distributor, whatever, and their margins get compressed. And so when we started, brainstorming with them of, how to make their business better, right? Like, let's just get back to business 101. Like, what problems are we solving? Minting a token actually has functional utility in this case of people can buy their tokens and you can use it to have an emerald. You can buy an emerald directly from them. So it's cheaper than waiting for the jewelry store to do it. Cut it, take a tour of the mine, etc. And they are so confident that people will like what they have. They offered a refund policy of if you don't use this in the next 3 years, like the tokens you buy, they will refund to the tune of 4x what people purchase for.
Wow. Okay, so let me understand this relationship. So Everest is partnering with a mine, Limitless Emerald Mine, and they have 10 billion in assets. So how much exactly are they tokenizing? And then how does that work when people go to Everest to purchase the part of the tokenization?
Great questions. So they've actually put over $250 million worth of collateral into Everest custody. So we're holding that as a just in case. We've minted 21 million tokens on Ethereum mainnet. 20 of them will be available for sale. 1 million is for incentive for people to get the word out. From there, they use not only Everest for fiat on and off ramps, so you can show up with your debit card anywhere in the world and buy these tokens, but they also use some of the infrastructure we developed that other folks in our ecosystem leverage, and that's, if you will, that allows the swapping directly from MetaMask and ETH or ID or USDT to buy, swap for these tokens. So yeah, what it means, and I'll go back to the Canadian reference just to think about what we just talked about. Is like there are mines all over the world that actually have trapped liquidity, right? And tokenization plus the custody plus the exchange is essentially like bringing the Toronto Stock Exchange to the whole world. And it's very liquid, right? So as we all talk about like the promise of blockchain crypto, I think we're in a really good spot.
Okay, so if I go to the Everest platform, I'm able to buy some of the tokenization, any amount, and then what's the time horizon on the investment? Like you mentioned there, like a refund policy or a 4X. What would I be looking at if I put into this?
Sure. So again, I try to stay away from words like investment. This is you're buying a functional utility, like buying a gift card for a yogurt shop. Right?
Okay.
There is basically a swap mechanism that will be on Limitless's website, also on a nonprofit, if you will, Launchpad. And then also on the foundation, if you want to buy with fiat, then that'll be Everest Network. And if you want, you can just show up to their site, simple connect your wallet, just like Uniswap. You can swap as many USDT, ETH, ID tokens for these gems tokens. At that point, you're given an option you can stake those on Everchain and get 20% APY, right? Or you can hold for 36 months and use the token how you normally would. And if you don't use those tokens, then Limitless is signing up to give you a refund. You'll be able to go back and just go, I want to swap these gems for, I want my refund. And you just swap them back for the amount times 4.
Wow. So on the company side, is that like, hey, we're getting a bunch of liquidity in advance. It really helps them with their operations. And so in that way, they're able to do that?
They have a forecast out clearly where, they have, we're talking about a multi-billion-dollar mining company. They're not worried about the cash, right? And they actually like doubled down and gave Everest the custody of, if you think about it, there's 20 million tokens for sale, $1 each. And then even if 99.9% of everybody shows up 3 years later and wants their refund, the company's on the hook for $80 million, which they have. And if just in case like calamity happens and there's, floods and locusts, etc., Everest has 3 times the 80 already in custody too.
Okay.
So it's about as like, in terms of like, you want to get into real world assets, here's real world assets.
Definitely. And how did the relationship with this specific mine come about?
Gosh, there's actually folks from our community that saw what we were doing and said, hey, couldn't you, wouldn't you? And, it led to, we got really educated with mines and actually, like look, I've been down now to the mines with them. I've been out to, headquarters. I've been to their offices. Like, it's practically family now, right? So you can
Okay,
imagine that
so you've seen
there's
the
a lot of
emeralds.
trust.
You've seen the emeralds live.
Oh yeah, as a matter of fact, here's one. Here's something coming to you. A couple of emeralds right there, right from their mine. If you're curious,
Wow.
want to see, yeah, like I was out with their team. They have little boxes about this big, right? With emeralds bigger than my thumb, one of them like almost the size of my hand, and the associated GIA certification books showing that little package this big is worth $440,000.
Wow.
And so, yeah, you can imagine the level of trust they had in Everest to say, here's 259 million exactly assets into your custody, and we take it pretty seriously, as you can imagine.
That's very cool. And you mentioned earlier about the ID token as well playing a role in this. I know it's been around for a lot longer than this Mine partnership. How are you guys incorporating that token into the GEMS token partnership as well?
Great question. So a couple of different ways. So one, you'll be able to swap ID tokens for GEMS tokens. You'll also be able to take GEMS tokens and stake on Everchain to earn ID tokens, 20% I paid in ID.
Wow. Okay.
And then we also have simply the functional utility, that is the ID token. Show you what our calculator looks like. What does this actually do for Everest, and actually the ID token specifically? Let me just do a quick screen share. I'll show it to you.
All right.
So at the foundationnetwork.org, which owned all the ID tokens, here is real world asset tokenization. And we wanted to show, like, hey, there's going to be 20,000 identities verified. Half of those we think will actually go through Fiat and get KYC'd. The other half probably won't, right? They'll just be swapping directly with no KYC. We had to program some things, and so here are the dollars that are used, and then here's the tokens that are used and consumed, right, depending on the function that's happening. Right? And this is all available, and you'll be able to see. So, you'll be able to buy and swap. You're going to be selling on mainnet, etc. So the utility and the amount of tokens consumed, pushing, 1 million, almost 2 million there. Come back to the top. There's the community voted a while ago of how many IDs would be burned and how many rewarded to validators. And so this is a tokenomics calculator, and we're going to be updating this constantly because we have more deals coming in. And what it does every time the ID token is used, what its function is, and what happens to the whole, everything.
Very cool. Awesome. Yeah. And so you guys already have the capital from the mine. Are the gems already available to purchase, or what's the timeline for the whole partnership to start?
We've already taken custody. We've already minted tokens. They have stock to sell gems until ever. And so we're looking at later in June or early July for really the token being available for everyone. And then it's, like I said, debit card anywhere in the world, requires KYC. If you're simply swapping up to $9,900 worth, everything under is literally just show up with your wallet, just like Uniswap.
That's always nice. Lower the barriers to entry.
fewer steps, the fewer clicks a person has to do, right, the better consumers feel about it all. So yeah, and the other thing to point out is this is not only the first of a few with Limitless Mine. It's one of our first mining companies, and we have a pretty pipeline because, again, like we think we stumbled upon quite literally like a gold mine. Like every one of these mining companies likes the idea of taking their illiquid assets and getting them liquid and getting them globally liquid. So
yeah. No, I can imagine, definitely. And you know, I've actually heard stories of other mining companies trying to, you know, so-called utilize tokenization, but it always just seems like, I don't know, maybe it's just a money grab or a PR or something like that. I haven't actually seen something where, hey, they've already put, you know, 250 million plus into another company and they're offering a refund and there's a return that's guaranteed. And I guess for the company this big, a mine that has billions, it's not a lot for them. Maybe it's just testing the waters. Maybe this could be something that is, you know, tokenizing billions as we continue to grow RWA into the mainstream.
Yeah. And again, like, look, I always, as a custodian and one doing a utility token, I always try to be cautious. There's nothing's ever guaranteed because that gets everybody regulatory. I hope and they hope that people are going to get their tokens. They're going to use them for buying gems directly because then your girlfriend, wife, etc. will be really happy or taking it to where it's fine. The refund policy and the extra, you know, I would call 3x to 20x collateral is really their statement to the world that they're deadly serious and have the assets and the money to back all this up, right? So that's just, I think it's, you know, it's a really good sign.
Definitely. So when you buy gems and you want to actually get physical gems, you know, sort of the tokenization settlement, is it just you're purchasing raw gems or they actually have jewelry? What are the possibilities on what I can get of physical assets with the gems?
Really good question. So they will sell, here's raw emeralds. Like I said, like I was looking at boxes of like, here's a gem like the size of my thumb, which I don't know what to do with that, but like it's big. They've also gone all the way through, like they know all the jewelers. And you can have they'll have something made for you, like these bracelets we're sending out to, right, some of the folks that are interested. And so I would say it runs from, you want a raw stone to do you want actually something finished in a necklace, bracelet, whatever.
That's awesome. Well, I have a feeling, I hope with the, I've seen quite an increase in interest in gold and silver and lithium and these other precious metals, that would sort of trickle down to all physical kind of assets as a whole. So I feel like this is a good time for a tokenization of something like this.
I agree. I mean, to echo your sentiment about folks have tried some of this previously and they tried NFTs for diamonds. And the truth is nobody wants, and those have generally not done terribly well. And then there's tokenization of gold that all you're really doing is tracking the price of gold. This is tokenizing an ecosystem with just an incredibly interesting functional utility with collateral and refund policy. And that's, right, if this were a financial instrument, this would be like on Maple saying, here's corporate debt and here's 50% APY. Right now, if that's what if you didn't have the functional utility of the token, that's what it would look like. 50% APY, right? Backed up by a multi-billion-dollar corporation. You're like, okay.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you mentioned that you'll be able to get the gems from the Limitless site, but also on Everest. So if I want to get in on this on day one, I guess it depends on what currency or crypto you're starting with. but what's the best way to follow along for like the launch of it on the first day?
Everlaunch.org.
Okay.
Everlaunch.org. We'll have that widget up where you'll be able to swap crypto for gems easily, seamlessly. And if you want to use your debit card and touch fiat to do this, foundationnetwork.org is the other place. Just depends on if you want to, go through KYC and fiat, or if you want to just, swap.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it. I'll leave those links in the show notes below as well. And I would love to have you back on, after it launches and just to see, I'm very interested to see how this goes, and also just how RWA, real world asset tokenization expands. This could be one of the catalysts for just everything. Hopefully the whole mining industry starts paying attention and realizes, hey, we're so illiquid. This is something that could really help the industry and just move money faster and cheaper. Because I feel like that's something that it's very ripe for disruption. So thank you so much for the time, Bob.
Thank you. I appreciate it. As always, you always have most intelligent questions and, cut to the heart of everything. So thanks again for the time.